This is GraveDigger Radio, broadcast live from the afterlife. Turn it up, oh yeah! Welcome to GraveDigger Radio. This is your host, Zach, hanging out in the studio with the Eldritch Horror, Jason. We still have no anonymous Mike, and at this point we're kind of starting to get a little worried about him, actually. We've gotten no postcard, we've received no package containing like a pinky or anything, so we really don't know what's become of anonymous Mike.
He may not even be on the planet.
He may not be. He may actually just be plugged into the Matrix right now, and he may be downloaded into like a cyborg body or something. But we've not seen nor heard from anonymous Mike. But we are hopeful that he will rejoin us in some kind of ethereal form.
I believe he will.
I think he certainly shall. I don't think he'll be able to resist the call of the podcasting and GraveDigger Radio and bringing weird stories to you guys. So, Jason, what do we got today?
Well, now that we're entering the, festive Christmas season, it was your idea, actually, to talk about Krampus.
Right. I mean, I don't think we've really done an actual Christmas episode. So this is the GraveDigger Radio Christmas special.
Well, around here, it's pretty much Halloween 24/7.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
365.
The fact that our studio has, like, decaying stone walls and everything, it's...
and its own ghost.
And its own ghost. It's very fitting for what we do.
Mm-hmm. So when you're sitting around, listening to the radio about this time of year, you're probably inundated with Mariah Carey...
I know. I feel
the Beatles.
You know the scene in Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, where he's like, "And so it begins."
Yeah.
I feel like that is me when the first time I hear Mariah Carey each year.
I mean, it's mid-October right now. We're recording our Christmas episodes, and I was like buying some like razors and aftershave cream at the CVS, and I was going down the aisle, and they already got the Christmas stuff out, and I'm just like outraged. As much as I love Christmas, I'm like, come on. It's not even Halloween. Oh,
yeah. At, like, Target and Walmart and all that, you can go ahead and see that they're slowly rolling out their Christmas. And it's like, you stay back.
Exactly.
We need, like, a nice demarcation between Christmas and Halloween.
Yes. But in true GraveDigger Radio form, we decided to make Christmas as creepy as possible. So today we're going to talk about Krampus. And you're not going to hear any holiday songs about Krampus, at least not in the United States. Because Krampus is a sort of half-goat, half-demon, beastly critter who literally goes around, like, whacking people into becoming nicer people.
Yeah, I mean, mostly children. It's more of a child-beating, devouring Christmas icon, if you will.
Yeah, like the Christmas hobgoblin. The descriptions of Krampus kind of vary from region to region. We're talking about mostly Central Europe, really. But a few of the, like, things remain consistent. He typically has pointed horns like a devil, a long forked tongue, body covered in like a coarse fur, kind of like a goat had sex with a demon.
Basically like a demonic Sasquatch-looking creature with some cloven hooves and horns and all that. But then he's also got the cage on his back or a sack that he carries full of children and all that too.
Yeah, and he's kind of this weird counterpart to St. Nicholas, who is, of course, associated with Christmas. I mean, that's what Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, kind of is. But he's like the bad boy St. Nicholas. Like, if you're not on good terms with St. Nick, then you got to deal with Krampus. So in the Christian tradition, St. Nicholas is the patron saint of children, so it adds up with kind of the Christmas tradition. But I also found out, Zach, that he's the patron saint of single people, so he's kind of like your patron saint as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm mortified of children, so I don't think children actively terrify me.
Yeah.
So Krampus is kind of my go-to guy because he's taking the children away, which is exactly what I want to have happen, to be as far away from the children as possible.
Yeah, and then St. Nicholas will kind of take care of you as like this single loner, like, cat person.
God, you make me sound so sad.
Oh, like you don't like cats.
This is true. I definitely do.
St. Nicholas's Saint's Day is December 6th, which, according to history is like his day he passed away. But in the Eastern Christian calendar, his Saint's Day is December 19th. So you can see how he kind of gets piled in with the whole Christmas thing because it's right up against, Christmas. And Krampusnacht, pardon my crappy German, is the night before December 5th. So you can see that Krampus and St. Nicholas are often kind of paired together. Kind of like you and me. Maybe I'm the St. Nick to your Krampus.
Oh, man.
Did you want to be St. Nick or am I Krampus?
No, but now I feel like we need to... I mean, don't get me wrong. I think at this point we're like common law married, so we could do St. Nick and Krampus couples costume. I think would work out great.
So, many European cultures, they welcome the kindly man as a figure of like generosity and benevolence who rewards good children. But the counterpart to that is that you have Krampus, who is kind of feared and menacing, and so he's like the one who would come along and punish the bad. Those who didn't receive the goodwill of St. Nick would kind of get the bad end of the stick, literally, from Krampus. He is widely feared in Germany and Austria. Krampus's name is likely derived from the German word Krampen, which means claw. Again, forgive my German. And he's also likened to like the son of hell, like in Norse mythology. And, German and like Scandinavian cultures are kind of derived from the same ultimate Indo-European root. At some point, they spread apart from one another. One went north, one went south. So it's kind of like this ancient, beyond like historical reckoning culture that gave rise to the Krampus phenomenon, if you want to call it that.
And it's pretty interesting, too, just the way cultural diffusion and these myths and legends kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the Scandinavian Norse mythology, there is no son of hell ever mentioned. And so when we were doing the research for the show, it was, that was a thing that kept coming up over and over, that he was the son of hell. But everything that I could find, that was an exclusively Germanic addition to the Norse mythology.
And you can see some parallels in Greek mythology as well, because so much of his appearance is linked with like satyrs and fauns, and then more nature-based pagan deities, I guess is the word I can use, that it comes from those traditions. So the legend of Krampus is part of the centuries-old Christmas tradition in Central Europe, where the celebrations around Christmas begin in early December. Again, I mentioned before, Krampus and St. Nick are kind of tied together. One is what you want to have, a visit from St. Nicholas, and the other is the punishment version in Krampus, who would go around and swat the wicked children, stuff them in a sack or like this wicker basket that he would carry on his back, and take them away to his lair for, I guess, more punishment.
Well, it kind of depends on the version that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Because in some instances, he takes them away to beat them, or sometimes he eats them.
Oh, lovely.
Or even in some instances of the story, especially once more Catholic Christian influences got involved, he would drag them to hell.
Nice. That's a good way to put your kids to bed at night. Like, if you're good, maybe Krampus will come, or maybe St. Nicholas.
Right, yeah. If you're good, you'll get St. Nicholas. But if you kids leave your damn bike on the yard one more time, Krampus is going to come and drag you to hell.
You also see the symbology of chains associated with Krampus a lot, and maybe that's from the Christian influence. It's kind of a typical symbol you've seen for someone like being burdened with the sins that they had in life, like carrying forward into the afterlife as a sort of a punishment or imprisonment for their bad behavior. It's believed that the Christianity kind of added that to the Krampus legend and kind of equated him with the great devil, the capital D devil in Christian thinking tradition.
Yeah, because it was kind of this idea of the depiction with the chains of binding the devil.
Mm-hmm. According to folklore, Krampus reportedly shows up in towns, like I said, the December 5th, which is right before the Saint's Day for St. Nicholas, and this is known as Krampus Night in English.
Krampusnacht.
Yeah.
In the German.
There was a movie recently made called basically Krampus by director Al Reitnauer, and he is quoted as saying that Krampus is a kind of a boogeyman associated with the Christmas season. And he says that Krampus is actually a species of being and not just one singular creature. So, I don't know, Zach, so if you have one, it's a Krampus, but if you have a bunch of them, that'd be a Krampi?
I think so. I think a Krampi would be... I don't know what the term for a group of Krampus would be. A clutch of Krampus?
I would submit...
A claw of Krampus?
I would submit a Grinch of Krampi.
Oh, okay. I like that one. I like that one a lot, actually.
I have nothing to base that on. Other than I like the fact that you have the Grinch stories, by Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Maybe he's stealing from that a little bit. Grinch could be a Krampus kind of figure.
I never thought about that. But I mean, it makes sense because Seuss was German, wasn't he?
I don't know.
So, I mean, I don't know.
That wasn't his real name, was it?
No, I have no idea. I'm not a Dr. Seuss biographer by any means. But if he was, he would certainly know the story of Krampus.
And so one of the signature features of Krampus is that he's always whacking these kids with a birch twig. And that was somehow symbolic in the Central European legends associated kind of with St. Nicholas coming back from the dead, because the birchwood has some symbology linked to St. Nicholas as well. So,
well, apparently he came back from the dead and beat this priest like within an inch of his life with a birch branch.
Mm-hmm. I just think of my grandma like telling me to go out in the yard and pick my own switch. Son of a gun. That sucked.
I never had to endure that particular brand of child abuse.
Well, that's why you ain't right, boy. You never had to go pick your own switch.
No, I didn't get beat as a child. I mean, I probably should have, but I didn't. It
was this horrible moment because, like, well, I could get this little skinny one because it's skinny, but then it's all like switchy and whippy.
Or did they hit you if you picked like too wimpy of a switch too?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like a little one would like kind of like lash you, you know. It's almost whip-like, so you'd be like striated and stuff. But if you got a thick one, then it's like a proper like bone whacking kind of like deep muscle.
It's like a club.
Yeah, it's almost club-like. So it's like, which do I want? Oh God! Then I gotta take it back to Grandma and.
So we're going to be using all of our Patreon money for Jason's therapy. So if you would like to donate to our Patreon, do that now.
Well, Krampus, for obvious reasons, I suppose, was kind of suppressed by the medieval and Renaissance church because they didn't want, this devil-like image associated with all the religious holidays that stack up around Christmas time. And, of course, these were also associated with, like, some pretty, like, rowdy celebrations that would go on. People dressing up like Krampus and getting really kind of out of hand, celebrating Krampus night and kind of like delving into a little bit of debauchery ahead of like a really holy season. And you see the same thing around Easter. You know, it's the whole Mardi Gras tradition is go out and have your fun because now we're in Lent and you got to act right.
Well, and I was really surprised to find out doing the research on this that Christmas tradition in ye olden times was marked by heavy amounts of intoxication.
Oh, yeah.
That it was meant to be a very rowdy time. So I'm surprised how puritanical and holy that it's become in modern times, given its debaucherous origins.
Well, I mean, there's so much diversity across the different denominations. You know, some denominations are fine with some alcohol and some are not. You know, you had the more, like you said, puritanical traditions that really outlaw any kind of... fun whatsoever, and so yeah, some of these celebrations could be quite rowdy. Between 1890 and the beginning of like the early 20th century, Krampus Christmas cards became produced by German companies that were sold in Austria and Germany and around the world. They often featured text that included Brav Sein, which is kind of like a good wishing from Krampus, greetings from Krampus, maybe a little bit tongue-in-cheek or ironic that,
Well, I think that one was supposed to be like, be good.
Right.
Yeah, just the idea of...
Almost a threat, right?
Right,
from Krampus, that get your shit together.
Right, if you're not good, you're going to get a visit from Krampus.
Right, and these images on the card showed, like, crying children kind of being frightened by Krampus or kidnapped or terrified, chased down the street from Krampus because I guess they had been bad kids all year long, and now they got the Krampus instead of St. Nicholas.
But I don't even know if necessarily... the St. Nicholas visits were always that good, because the traditional German presents could be nice things like toys and candy, or you could just get a stick. Like, just straight up just like a rod, is what it was saying.
And even still in modern American Christmas, like it's still, we know that you could always just get a lump of coal in your stocking if you were a little shit.
Which is significantly better than being drugged to hell by the demonic goat man.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a lump of coal as opposed to lashings and being drugged to the underworld. You can see in some of these cards there's even like a female version of Krampus, who are, of course, kind of sexified compared to the male version. But they did still have like the long tongue and the horns. So now we've got kind of like the Krampus thing like being likened unto like a succubus or incubus kind of depiction, which is interesting because there's a little bit of a seduction there to it. So not only are you being punished, but maybe you're being lured into that punishment a bit.
And it was very interesting to me looking at these pictures that, we're talking 1920s, early 1930s, and they were very much the female Krampus, female Krampi, were kind of these pin-up sexy devil ladies. Right, exactly. Like, not remotely the hideous monster that Krampus is. So it's very interesting how those things come about.
Yeah, and lately there's been, more like as society has been more secularized or whatever, that there's been kind of a renewed interest in Krampus. Here in the United States, you see people embracing kind of the Krampus tradition. And then not that there isn't like a lot of like Austrian, German, immigrants that maybe brought that with them, but also like in pop culture, like I said, there was a recent movie and there's some special like TV episodes that come around on Christmas time that, go with the whole Krampus imagery and like almost like a scary aspect to Christmas. We've been seeing a lot more of that. And even local like Krampus nights popping up in some of the larger American cities like DC and New Orleans. Of course, New Orleans will get screwed up for any reason. They just don't need an excuse.
Any excuse to drink and have a wild time in New Orleans is A-okay with them.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's, in modern Austria, Germany, Hungary, Slovenia, and even in the Czech Republic, you have these Krampuslauf, these Christmas runs of sorts where people will get dressed up and they'll like, as Krampus, and they'll like chase other people through the streets and like fleeing like the Christmas devils.
Yeah, and they'll beat you with the sticks and all that stuff and chase you into the stores and everything.
Kind of like a weird running of the bulls kind of thing, except it's people dressed up as Krampus.
Which I feel is a lot more fun because I like my odds against somebody in a Krampus suit way better than I do like an actual bull.
Yeah, especially if he's got them weird backward goat legs going on. Like, pretty sure I can outrun that dude. I don't know. It depends on how much he's been drinking.
Just zigzag. That's the key. That's the answer.
Yes.
Serpentine, always.
The same thing works for alligators. If you're running from one, like, take sharp turns and sharp.
Tune into GraveDigger Radio for these handy survival tips.
They come in handy.
We just impart like little nuggets of wisdom that we pepper in through our episodes.
And it's funny because, like, the Krampus runs and the Krampus, I don't know, mythology, tradition, let's say tradition, is becoming more and more popular in Austria and Germany. And it's kind of like them, like, re-embracing some of their cultural heritage. And, what could go wrong with, like, celebrating German cultural heritage, right? Like, let's play that up as much as possible.
There's nothing that could possibly go wrong with that at all in any way, shape, or form.
Krampus parades are also called the Perchtenlauf or Klaubof. Killing me here with the words, Zach. But these are probably stem back to a more ancient pagan tradition that goes back centuries even before Christianity was introduced to these countries. And again, it always involves young people dressed in these costumes, marching in the streets, and trying symbolically eliminating the ghosts of winter. So all this is happening around the winter solstice. So from here on out, the days are getting longer. So it's very symbolic of the turning of the year. And the cold, dark, hard part of the year, again, it's very agrarian-based as well, is giving way, and the light will slowly be returning to the world. And so it's kind of cool that they're not only this moralistic aspect to it, but this agrarian aspect to it, where the year is turning and the days will get longer and the good times will return soon. So you're punishing the bad and welcoming the return of the good for those, I guess, who act accordingly.
It almost kind of makes me think of the no masks and the oni masks and all that, kind of chasing away evil spirits that you see a lot in East Asian cultures.
Yeah, and that's also kind of the symbology behind the jack-o'-lantern. It's you put these things outside your houses at night, and they're kind of scary or spooky to ward off any spirits that may try to infiltrate your house, because Halloween is this liminal time between life and death, and spirits are, roaming the earth, and you don't want them to hang around where you live. In Western Austria, the pagan tradition of dressing up in Perchten costumes, sometimes they're also called Teufel or Krampus, depending on the region, and they take to the streets to get rid of winter ghosts. This goes back, over 2,000 years. It's an ancient tradition. In Bavaria and the Alpine region of eastern Austria, you may have a St. Nicholas also come along. Again, they're pairing them together with a small posse of Krampuses?
I think Krampus
Struggling here, man.
That's why I enjoyed bringing this story to you, is just listening to you butcher German over there just puts a little Christmas cheer in my spirit.
Yeah, well, I come from a Celtic heritage, so, don't have a lot of familiarity with this stuff. So a small posse of Krampuses or angels and who would bear gifts door to door on the evening of December 5th. And, at the door, St. Nicholas would ask the children about their behavior, and if they were able to, properly recite their catechism or some seasonal poem, sing a song in some way, like appease St. Nicholas, then they could receive a gift. But if they screwed it up, along would come the Krampuses, and maybe dealing out, like a little bit of scare or a threat, maybe give them a little playful whack with a birch staff.
Feel like Germanic mafia here, to where he's going door to door shaking down these kids to see if they've been good. And if not, Krampus is going to break your knees.
So these holidays are, according to author Stephen Nissenbaum, Christmas in these cultures was a holiday that was characterized by, like we mentioned, boisterous revelry. It was kind of a combination of Halloween, New Year's Eve, and Mardi Gras. The celebrations could include mummers that would demand alcohol door to door, which later involved into trick-or-treating, but I think maybe he's more talking about wassailing.
Okay, what is wassailing?
It's kind of the same thing, where you would go door to door during, the Christmas holiday season and demanding drink and kind of having this, like, on-the-go bar-hopping party. I make wassail at my Christmas parties.
Right.
That's where that comes from. It's an alcoholic, usually a spiced cider or something.
And why did we do away with this?
I'm trying to bring it back.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
You just go door to door and like with the cup and be like,
"Here we go, a wassailing among the trees so green."
And you just say, "Here's my cup. Can I get some booze?"
It's like adult trick or treating during like the Christmas winter solstice Yuletide season.
We've got to bring this back, because like I would absolutely get on that. Like I always said that we needed to have an adult trick or treat, like handing out those little airplane bottles of booze to the parents.
Yeah,
but like I would even learn to sing some Christmas carols if they're gonna pour me some booze and like a little bit of spiced. What is it? What is wassail? It's a spiced wine rum thing.
No, it's like a apple cider based.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Clearly, I have no idea.
I make it every year.
I know it's tasty. I just don't.
November through January, I'm drinking the shit out of that stuff.
I don't ask questions. I just pour it and I get drunk. That's what I do.
I throw in some cloves and some cinnamon, and you can add some rum and.
Okay, yeah. So it's like I said, it's got rum in it.
Yeah.
See, I knew what we were talking about the whole time.
The intention is to have a good time. So once the German immigrants came to the United States, all these legends kind of came with them, and kind of acclimated to American culture, and we still have some of these kind of going around in the Pennsylvania Dutch communities, for example. You would have the legend of the Frau Perkta, and this is a woman, kind of a witch-like character, who would go around during the Christmas season, the 12 days of Christmas, rewarding the good people and punishing the bad. She was pretty metal, as we would say these days. So she would tear open the stomachs of naughty children and replace their organs with stones or hay. A similar figure in Italy, kind of a fairy woman known as La Befana, would visit children on January 5th, which is the last day of the Christmas season. That's 12th night. You might know it as 12th night. And she would either punish or leave things in their socks at night. You can see how these are all very similar to the traditions that we still have. If they're good, they get some candy. If they're bad, they would get rocks.
I was going to say,
or charcoal.
What tradition do you have where you're gutting children and turning them into scarecrows?
Well, she's like the radical, version. Like, yeah,
she's the hardcore version of this. I'm really concerned about what happens at the Christmas parties after I leave. If this is just lumped in as Christmas tradition.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like the modern American mainstream Christmas tradition is really kind of the product. We don't have Krampus around anymore. I mean, we know about it because we're weird and we're trying to raise awareness about Krampus on the podcast. But I mean, it's still a very small figure that we don't know much about today. But maybe it's a bigger deal in Central Europe. So that's kind of the point of this episode, is to tell people how messed up some Christmas celebrations can be. Like the modern American version is really an outgrowth of the Victorian era kind of Christmas edition traditions that we borrowed from Great Britain. Of course, we're just their ugly bastard stepchild anyway, right? And all of this was greatly influenced by A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and which is probably like the most influential work that shaped our Christmas traditions to this day, backed up by the Christian revivalism, movement of the 1800s, which emphasized a lot of social justice reforms, including like better care for the sick and the poor, which gave rise to like the modern welfare system as we know it, and even up in including like the abolitionist movements that eradicated slavery in the United States and Britain. So, but it's somewhere along the way we kind of like dropped Krampus out of it. But it's funny to me that if you're at all familiar with the Christmas Carol, it's still these supernatural figures that come to Scrooge during the night and kind of browbeat him and threaten him with death and eternal servitude, including those chains that we mentioned before, that he will have to bear through all eternity if he doesn't act right in life, make amends for his sins, and like get with the program with like Christian ethics. It's funny that those two traditions kind of ultimately get to the same meeting point where you need to improve your behavior, because if you don't in the here and now, you will suffer eternal damnation and torment at the hands of either hell and the devil or this Krampus figure who will drag you there and torture you for all eternity.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas, everyone. Sorry.
It is really interesting, though, that this lovely time of year where we're all supposed to be filled with joy and cheer ends in eternal damnation for so many. It's just a tradition.
You better straighten up and fly right.
I mean, like
something with horns is coming for you.
Oh, I'm absolutely certain of that. I look forward to the day.
I was going to say that, actually, Zach, I'm a little surprised that you're not more of a fan of Christianity, because it's pretty metal.
I mean, in a lot of the,
I know I'm using the kids' language, but it's pretty metal.
I always enjoy watching you learn the vernacular of the youth, but
the Utes.
I don't want to say for fear of getting fussed at. I don't want to say Christian mythology. Christian mythos maybe might be the right word. Like the
traditions, a safe word.
Okay, traditions. Like I'm trying to think the stories, the characters.
I don't want to poop on anybody's belief
system.
system.
I'm not trying to poop on that. I'm kind of at a loss for the right words that I want to use here. But like the stories, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of hardcore stuff that goes on in those stories.
Read about some of the lives of the saints. It was not pleasant.
Oh no, like it's weird to me how I guess time glorifies and erases a lot of the brutal stuff that occurred historically. Because the Catholic saints, most of them were tortured terribly before their death.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of point I was getting at. Like, Christianity is very metal. You have a God who cares about creation, but he's having a hard time getting his message across. He throws floods and everything at his created beings, and they still don't get the message, so he decides to come down as a human and tell them about how he wants them to behave. All these good ways. Love your neighbor as yourself, love everybody equally across the board, no exceptions. And so humanity decides to take him into custody, torture him mercilessly for 3 days, and then, execute him in the worst way imaginable.
Did you watch Good Omens?
No.
Oh man, you would love it. There's
I think I read the book.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The scene where I'm drawing a blank on the David Tennant demon, but where he's in Jesus being crucified. He's like, what did he say? He's like, well, he told everyone to love one another. And like, that was not
Screw that guy.
Right, that was not a popular opinion. But I hear all that, but I'm gonna still have to go with my guy Krampus. I think is a better messenger of, hey, if your kids are little shits.
Yeah.
It's kind of Krampus, I think, gets a bad rap because he might be doing a service for these parents. Actually.
Maybe he's like a tough love figure, right? Like he's like the stick instead of the carrot.
See, if Saint Nick is the patron saint of children, then I feel like Krampus
and single people.
I feel like Krampus should be the patron saint.
He's the heavy,
right? Or of the child free. Which is what I shall always be.
Oh, there you go.
Because he's taking them away. He's taking these little bastard kids away, and no one has to see or deal with them again.
But just the bad ones.
Right, just the bad ones.
Some kids are lovely.
they're okay. Tolerable. Tolerable is the word I'll use. Well, guys, we're hoping that you were enjoying your holiday season as you listen to Gravedigger Radio.
Enjoy a cup of wassail.
Enjoy a cup of wassail. And, really, if you just want to change the mood of any Christmas gathering.
And get shit-faced on 12th night.
There you go. But just bring up some of the conversations and topics that we've mentioned here throughout the duration of Gravedigger Radio.
If you did so, you'd probably have less gifts to give out.
You would have less people to deal with.
Offend all the relatives.
But, the nice thing with Gravedigger Radio is if you listen to us regularly and you regurgitate the things that you hear on the show, it's guaranteed to make you weird at parties.
Yes.
And that's what we're here to bring to you guys. So if you like what we're doing here at Gravedigger Radio and you want to help us keep doing it, head over to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/gravedigger.coffee.com/Gravedigger. All right, guys, we'll tune in nenext time for the spooky tale. SkullFace Records.